All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people just like you, just like me. All right, so the Jeff Scott Soto saga. I talked about this earlier, and I wanted to do a follow-up video on it because it's interesting. And I think Jeff Scott Soto had the wrong idea about his former bandmates back in the day. I think Soto is one of these old school guys who looks at people and wants to establish rapport and relationship. And he doesn't look at things just from a business standpoint, like, I'm in this band and it's a great deal for me. I think this guy honestly still loves this business and loves music. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so busy at it every single year. And back in 2007, he was the lead singer for Journey for 11 months. And his name is not on the marquee. It's not, you don't see his name in the, list of singers. You see Jerry, and then you see Arnell, right? And Soto should be out there because he was the bridge to Arnell, and he was a solid bridge. He could have been a bridge for a lot longer. In fact, he could have been their vocalist. Even today, I don't think he would have stayed that long, but my guess is he could have been in that band for at least 10 years if he wanted to, depending on how active they were and how he was getting along with everybody. You just don't know all those variables. But my guess is that Soto, being kind of this classically trained singer, hence Trans-Siberian Orchestra, hence all of the work he's done as a solo artist and with other artists, the Wet Project, WET, check that out. It's really amazing stuff. And he tends to sing stuff that's a bit challenging, right? I mean, maybe not the super high tenor stuff all the time, but generally speaking, I mean, he puts his voice through the ringer, and because he keeps himself in good condition, he keeps his voice in good shape, I think that would have translated to longevity with the band Journey. Now, getting back to the relationship thing, right? I think that Soto was friends with Neil Schon prior to this, and that relationship, I think, was important, getting Jeff a shot at being in Journey for 11 months. But maybe it was Jonathan Cain that overruled. Maybe it was they just sat down. Now that everybody's getting along, they don't have to kind of hide the story in the way that they would normally have hid that story, because they're both, on the same page nowadays, apparently. But back in those days when there was maybe a little more infighting, somebody would throw the other guy under the bus and say something like, well, I liked him, right? But John didn't like him. So we had to move on. And that's kind of how I perceived that story for quite some time. But now Neil's saying that we both didn't really like him. He did this song, recorded a song, and then we listened to it. And we were like, no. But then you look at the live performances that Journey was doing at the time, and they were off the hook. I mean, the fans probably didn't appreciate it because they were just starting to get used to Steve Augeri, right? And it takes a long time. When you have a singer, people will still call Arnell the new singer. Did you hear the new singer? And back in those days, Augeri had the same problem. And then his voice gave out. Then you had someone else show up, and they're like, hey, what happened to the Steve Perry guy who had the perm? And now we've got this tall Adonis guy running around the stage who had great stage presence and who I think is inspired a lot by guys like Freddie Mercury and Steven Tyler and Sammy Hagar and all the great frontmen in rock history, really, especially Freddie Mercury, I would say, if you're looking at Jeff Scott Soto. By the way, Jeff would be a great singer for Queen. He'd be a great singer for Van Halen. I've said it multiple times, and I'll keep saying it. I think Sammy Hagar, gave him some real compliments. And he's a guy who doesn't get into the traditional rock press as much as he should. So, Neil Sean's like, oh, this is just PR. Well, can you blame Jeff for trying to get a little PR out of the situation and to get his name out there? I mean, that's what this is every single day in the melodic rock world. These guys essentially are clawing for a little bit of media attention, and not articles that go off on political tangents and talk about their views on whatever, but articles that will actually talk about their music, their career. I mean, I get calls from people, hey, thanks for doing a video about me. I'm like, really? Wow, 2,000 views, and you're really happy about that. That's more than, you would have gotten from some other rock publication which buried your story or belittled your politics or whatever it was that they did to you. And, I do what I do because I love this music. And I examine things like what happened with Journey because a lot of people still care. I mean, if they didn't care, right, you wouldn't get any response from Neil Sean. You wouldn't get Soto going on a podcast and just saying, look, I just wanted to be friends with these guys. And suddenly I was ghosted, and I wasn't given the time of day. It was like what happened to Lindsey Buckingham and Fleetwood Mac. All of a sudden he was just gone and he didn't exist. And then the next guy had Casual Chemistry, So, I mean, and this isn't trying to belittle the contributions of Arnel. It isn't trying to rewrite history and do this what if game, but it is a legitimate thing to wonder, what if Soto had stayed? I mean, what kind of music would this band have made with him in the group? And what kind of concerts would they have had for years? My guess is it would have been pretty off the hook for a long time. And my guess is also that eventually the fans would come around and say, you know what, this guy, he's not trying to be Steve Perry, so there's no real pressure on him to be Steve Perry. This is a new chapter in the band's history, much like when Van Halen went from Dave to Sammy, and you had a completely different style singer, but people could appreciate both guys. Of course, you're going to have people that cling to the Dave era, other people clinging to Sammy, saying he's a better singer. And that's interesting because Soto is such a great singer that you could say, hey, I'm glad this guy is in the group. He doesn't sound like Perry, but man, can he sing? And I think that would have went a long way to make fans happy. And I'm sure Soto would have done as much justice to those Steve Perry songs as he possibly could. And I don't think he would have been auto-tuned. I don't think he would have been voice tracked. I don't think he needs any of that stuff even now. I mean, there's a reason Jeff is in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, right? And has sung for them for many years because he's really good at what he does. And he's a great stage presence. He's a great front man. So anyway, that's my commentary on this. A lot of people don't agree with me on Soto. Here's how I rank the singers in Journey. All right, here's how I rank them as far as vocal skills. Perry is number 1. Soto is number 2. Greg Raleigh is number 3. Steve Augeri is number 4. Arnel is number 5. That's how I rank them. And I'm not putting Robert Fleischman in there because he just wasn't in it long enough. And there are other people that could have been in Journey. But those guys, I think, in that order, represent vocal skills, like their ability to sing and deliver a song and have a great stage presence and a very recognizable sound. That's why I put Raleigh up there so high, because Greg Raleigh was so unique to that band. And it's a shame that he's not in the band today. But you look back and you think, okay, that creative burst they had when Kane came in there, that was really important to the history of the group. There would be no Don't Stop Believing, most likely, if Raleigh had stayed. I don't know. Maybe there would have been something. But to carry this through in today's day and age, and all of the casual fans, which now dominate, your ticket sales and your concerts, and everybody willing to go do the thing in order to see a concert and get their QR code and all this BS. Um, you got to have somebody who can deliver up there, and I think Soto is an entertainer. He's a great vocalist, and he seems to be like a really decent human being. And so is Arnell. Arnell is most of those things as well. And I understand, Arnell, he revitalized that band when he first got there, but things are a little different now. A lot of time has gone by, and fans who are spending all of this money want to make sure that they're getting, their money's worth when they go see a show. Otherwise, why even bother going to see a show? So much hassle involved in attending, and now you have to, show all of your medical information to somebody else in order to attend a concert. I think that's crazy, but that's just me. I'm apparently all alone in my crazy views, and I'll let other people debate that, from just that perspective. But of course, I will be talking about that as time goes on, as things continue to spiral out of control a bit. In any event, Soto, you just can't ignore him. He is great, and he was great, and he could still be great. But history was not kind to Soto, I think. And I think a lot of people who haven't been paying attention to him for the last decade or so should check out a lot of his solo works and his works with other artists and other bands. I mean, the guy, one of the hardest working dudes in melodic rock history.